All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella show. You guys, for any of my OG listeners out there who have listened to Hustle, Believe, Receive or read Hustle, Believe, Receive, my original book, my OG book, that came out in, oh my God, 10 years ago, just really insane. My guest today, you will remember her. You probably will remember her story. She was one of the featured stories out of the 51 stories that I featured in Hustle, Believe, Receive. And I'm just so excited because it's an opportunity for us to dig into what she's doing now, for you to kind of get an update on where she's been the last 10 years, what has been going on, what is a reinvention and a pivot look like, and all of those good things. She is also a very good friend of mine. I love and adore her. And I'm really excited to jump into today's conversation because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of you who have gone through transitions, who have maybe had one career and been successful at it and done your thing, and then get to another stage in life where you're like, hey, maybe I want to do something different. Maybe that, maybe I've done what I was going to do in this thing. What calls to me now? And we're going to really jump into that conversation because I think it is something that so many people can relate to in our current climate that we're going through right now. There's a lot of people who are going through a job reinvention, starting a business, whatever. So we're going to really talk about all that today. Stephanie Cannaday is my guest today. Super excited to welcome you in. So excited that everyone gets to know you and catch up. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Sarah. I
Uh,
really
it's
appreciate
it's
it.
it's so great. It's so great. Like, first and foremost, I want to share our backstory.
Yes.
So we met, good God, probably 14 years ago now, because it was several years before Hustle, Believe, Receive, back when I was in corporate and I was working in legal e-discovery. And my job was to call general counsels, associate general counsels of big companies and, get a meeting and pitch my e-discovery
Yeah.
product, right? So, but in order to be good at my job and in order to like my job and not hate my job, a big piece of that was building relationships. And it's always been the most important thing to me ever. And so I had cold called, reached out to Stephanie, and said, hey, I'm going to be in LA. Do you want to have lunch? And she was this high powered, fucking intimidating boss ass
Aw.
bitch. And by
Thank you,
bitch,
but
I
I
mean
didn't feel that way.
amazing. I don't mean that in a negative way. But she had this powerful role. She was an attorney at a giant healthcare company. And quite honestly, I was really nervous. I was like, oh my God, like
Oh, that's so funny. I was nervous too, right?
shut up.
I really was. I
Oh
was
my
very
God, I
nervous.
was like totally nervous. I was like, oh my God, I hope she likes me. And we sat down and we had lunch, and it was the craziest thing because we started connecting within probably the first like 3 minutes, like
We
3 to 5
really
minutes.
did.
It was
We
like
really did. And I
immediate.
remember in Hustle Believe Will Receive You, when you describe yourself, you talk about how you have one of the things you know that you have the ability to do
Yeah.
is to get people to open up, right? And prior to that, you and I have talked about this many times. Prior to that, I was not a person that opened up and just started talking to people, but we really
Yeah.
sat down and had lunch one day right down the road from my office in Irvine. And we just started talking about where, your childhood, my childhood,
Which
how
is
we got to where we are.
crazy
It
because
really
those are
is
not
crazy.
topics that usually come up at a work lunch. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not something that I just normally open up and talk to people about, but I did. We just sat there for a long time and had a great conversation, right? And then towards the end of the conversation, you said, "Well, I'm writing a book.
I know.
You told me about the Hustle, Believe, Receive, and you said, I would love to. I'm featuring
Yeah.
stories, individuals that have gone through things and overcome obstacles and then accomplish their dreams. I would love to feature you, and I was thinking you were saying like in your next book. And I was like,
Right.
okay. And then you're like, no, now. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know if I'm ready for that now. But it was so crazy because you were the first person that I had ever just like met and out of the blue without like thinking about like, who do I have in my book? What other stories do I need? Like whatever. In that conversation, I looked at you and I was like, I need you in my book. Like your story, but it was
Oh,
so
thank
crazy
you.
because
Thank
you had
you.
just mentioned that you hadn't usually, opened up and shared, especially with a stranger
Yeah.
that you just
Yeah.
met
Yeah.
about your childhood. Both of us have, very unique childhood. That was one of the things we connected on. But it's interesting how had you not been vulnerable in that moment and kind of
Yeah,
opened up and showed me a little bit of who you are, we would not be here right now, right? Because
no,
it would
for
have just been
sure.
a cool thing and like, okay, great, let's get a drink next time I'm in town thing. But it was the fact that like you were in that moment for whatever reason, God had a plan, universe had a plan. Uh, that open vulnerability was the connection point. And I know it was really scary for you as it was for many of the people that I interviewed who had not shared their vulnerable backstory before. And you kind of fell into that category. Like you hadn't ever, shared your backstory. And I remember you like giving me a call right about the time that I had to send the very last edit in and the book was about to go to press. And you're like, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah,
So can you
I
share with
think you
us?
had to
Oh,
walk. I think
can
you had
you
to
share
walk
with
me
us
off
a little
that
bit?
ledge a couple of times, Sarah.
Oh, I did. I walked you back. I was like, you got to, you got to, you got to. Yeah, I think there's multiple times where you're like, I can't, I can't. I was like, you know what? I just, I know when I know, and I think you probably do too, when something, even though it's scary, is exactly what you need.
Yeah.
And I know that both for myself and luckily as a coach for 15 years, I can kind of sense when that is true. So fill us in, tell us a little bit about your backstory, how you overcame that initial fear of kind of like leaning into and owning your story. And then where it ultimately took you, because I think that was the thing that was so incredible about you, like the life you built, based on kind of the background that you had was just incredible, honestly.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I mean, I guess a little bit of the story that I tell in Hustle, Believe, Receive for individuals that haven't read it. Hopefully, they will read it.
Yes.
Please buy it. So I live in Orange County now and previously have been in-house counsel up until recently. But prior to that, I actually grew up in a tiny little country town in Virginia. I was raised by my mother and my grandparents because my biological father actually, when I was about 5 or 6 years old, decided that he was going to relinquish all parental rights to my sister and me.
Wow.
So we don't have, yeah, well, formal legal process, right? To basically determine that he didn't have to have any responsibility for us anymore. So then I was basically raised by my mom and my grandparents in this tiny little country town. And I tell you, I can remember back to maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. I just had this inclination that I was going to be a lawyer. And somehow I also knew that I was going to be an in-house counsel. And I don't even think
Which
I
is
knew what
so
that
funny
meant
at
then.
10. You're like, I don't
you
even
know,
know what a company is.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I just, for many years was just kind of putting one foot in front of the other, just one foot in front of the other, the next goal and the next goal, and what's the next thing that I have to do, and the thing after that, right? And eventually got myself through college and then got myself through law school. And then initially, when I first started practicing, I don't know if it's the case now, but when I first started practicing to be an in-house counsel, you had to have a few years of experience because the
Right.
corporation didn't want you to just jump in right, from the very beginning without experience, right? So I took a job in my hometown for a brief period of time, and then one or two other positions that eventually got me to the job that I wanted, which was, like you said, associate general counsel in Irvine,
Yeah.
California, for a very large healthcare company, right? So, I mean, it was just a lot of work, many, many years of just overcoming the next obstacle and the next one and the next one and just figuring it out, right? Until eventually I was able to accomplish that goal. And I'll be honest with you, I think you also mentioned this in Hustle, Believe, Receive. Once you accomplish that goal, it was even bigger than I ever imagined it would be.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I never, as a small child in this tiny little country town in Virginia, never in my wildest dreams imagine I would work for such a large company, have that position, live where I got to live, near the beach and stuff. That was never
It
in
was like
my
the
thought.
Hollywood dream,
Yeah,
right? Like
you
it's like
know?
the extreme like Hollywood dream where you're just like, what gave you because it requires a lot of faith in yourself or trust, I guess, in your ability. And I do think that the seed of what's possible or the idea of what I can do landing with you when you're really young, it was kind of like that with me, just in a different kind of format. Wait, when I was really young, I thought I was going to grow up and be a famous Christian singer.
Oh,
Those were
I love
like when
it.
I was like 10 years old. But the odd and crazy thing about it is like the actual vision that I always had, like on a daily basis, was like me in front of an audience with a microphone, which is what I do now when I'm speaking. So it is kind of interesting how that dream gets planted super young. And I'm curious, is like, how did you build like the belief in yourself that you could go after this? I'm sure you didn't know any other super successful people, especially when you're really young and you're in a small town. There probably weren't a ton of examples of like, hey, this is possible. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Where did that come from, do you think?
Honestly, in my case, I don't even know if I had the belief. I just had the determination, right? I
Mm,
just had the, okay, here's the next obstacle. I've gotten over all of these ones previously. I'm going to get over this one, right? Or
yeah,
through it, or under it, around it, whatever I have to do to get to the next step, to the next step, to the next step. I think there were many years that I struggled internally,
yeah, of
with do I belong? Do I measure up? Am I enough for
course.
all the things, all the situations? And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, and for many, many years until I accomplished that goal,
Yeah,
So I don't even know if it was an internal belief. It was just an internal determination
drive. Yeah, like
that
total
took
drive.
over that belief.
Yeah. And that relentless pursuit of this is what I
Yes.
want and I'm going to figure it out and nothing is going to get in my way. I will figure it out and I
Yes.
will conquer. And then the other thing that can happen, which I think may have gone through too, is like you can climb that mountain, you can be on that mountain, you can be crushing the mountain, and for the first couple years, it feels like for the first year, it feels like, oh my God, I'm drowning. Like, what is happening?
Yes.
I woke up as Cinderella, but also a super scared Cinderella who doesn't belong at the ball. And then like year two goes through and you're like, all right, this is cool. And maybe year five rolls around and you're like, fuck. And then like maybe year 10, you're like, oh my God, there's got to be something more. So it's
Yes.
interesting how an arc of a dream can kind of even change when it's something that you were like so passionate about and so obsessed with. And I think a lot of people get really scared when the arc starts to kind of turn and go down, where they're like, I was supposed to love this for the end of
Yes.
time. I was supposed to like, this was supposed to be the dream for the rest of my life. And I truly don't believe that's how it works. I truly believe dreams are planted in us, ideas are planted in us to help us become the next version of ourselves, to go out there, and conquer them. But then we have to always grow, we have to always evolve. So what was that like? Talk to us a little bit about like what the top of the mountain was like, and then what started happening in you that you were like, maybe this isn't exactly where I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so the top of the mountain is great, obviously working for a large corporation, finally accomplishing those goals. But you're right,
Yeah,
after a few years, you realize what motivates me personally is being able to have an impact with on people, right?
yeah.
And so while I was in-house counsel for this large corporation, I was also on the weekends volunteering for missions and going to Skid Row and feeding the homeless and also doing other volunteering work for other organizations. And ironically, I actually, about halfway through, I worked for that company for a little over 10 years. About halfway through, I got assigned a role that I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want,
Mm,
but I was destined to have.
yeah.
So we had monthly legal meetings where the entire legal team would come together in a room, in a big conference room, right, here in Southern California. And we had two co-general counsels at the time. This is I vividly remember this. It's actually a very funny story. And one of the co-general counsels was sitting across from me, and he said, we really need to assign a pro bono coordinator position amongst all of you lawyers, right? We need to start doing pro bono events. We need somebody that can coordinate them. And we were all very hardworking lawyers.
Like
Nobody
so
really wanted
busy.
that new
Yeah.
responsibility, those new tasks. And then this person was going to have to coordinate those events and get everybody to go
Right.
too.
You're like, I don't want that on my plate right now.
I know, seriously. So he was sitting across the room, across the table, I remember, and we had like all these notes and these papers that we were looking at the at that day. And seriously, like I put the piece of paper up in front of him. like a little child. Like if
Yeah,
he can't see me, I can't see
right.
him. He won't. So then he punted to his co-general counsel, who was on the same side of the table as me. And there were several lawyers between us, but he was sitting up and I was sitting up. And as soon as that lawyer punted to him, he was like, Stephanie. And I was like, ah.
No.
I remember vividly, I remember walking out of that meeting that day thinking, way to go, Stephanie, way to get
Right?
yourself assigned that, how are you going to get out of it? So, but I tell you, man, being assigned that role really cracked something open in me. It really did, because I had to start contacting all of these local nonprofits and see what their needs were. At the same time, on the weekends, I was going to Skid Row and going other places to volunteer and painting, and
Yeah,
Central LA and downtown LA. And so I was learning about all these nonprofits, and I was trying to connect them with this large corporation for these pro bono events and
right.
volunteering events. And that's when it just broke open in me, right? Doing that and volunteering in my personal life too, right? Personally. And I just realized, wow, there is so much need out here. And at the same time, I have access to all of these resources, all of these lawyers, all these really smart people, corporations, where I can get help
Yeah,
to these causes, to these nonprofits, to these organizations, and to these individuals, right, that really
yeah.
need this help. That's where I started to see the need and to feel internally that I was supposed to be a part of helping the need, right?
Oh my God.
That literally, that's where
Yeah.
it came from about 10 years ago.
I love that so much. The how the universe or God or whatever it is that you believe in knows the bigger picture. I
Yes.
totally believe that a
Yeah.
million percent. And I think it's our job to notice and embrace, sometimes even when it's not fun. I mean, this can happen through all different types of ways where it can either bring an idea, an opportunity, or it can level out what you're going through in your life right now in order to get you to the next thing. But you became open to this new opportunity, for lack of a better
Yes.
word, that was kind of put in your path. And that started to slowly swell a passion, a true,
Really did.
genuine, where you're like, oh, this is what it feels like. Like, this is different. Yes, it
Yeah.
feels amazing to be super successful in all the ways that we're trained to have success be. You had done that, right? But once you find your purpose or your passion, all of a sudden it's just different. It's different.
Yes.
You're like in a different freaking river floating down, and you're like, what is this? This is kind of crazy. So 10 years ago, that got implanted, and
It
you're
did.
allowing the dream to kind of just percolate a little bit. You're allowing the passion to grow, which, by the way, this is the process, you guys. You have to be open to the ideas that come to you, but then you have to give it space to germinate and allow it to grow, allow it to be a thing. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times we're trying to go in immediately and solve it. So, a lot of people in that position, let's say they're a year into this volunteering and they're like, oh my God, I love this. I love this. I'm going to quit my job, blow up my life, and go do this. Right? My advice is always, please don't do that. Please don't
Yeah.
do that. Please allow
Maybe
it
be a little
to
more
germinate.
strategic.
Yes, let's let it germinate a little bit more. But along that path too, we start to get the ideas of how something can come together,
Yes.
right? And then we can get really, really set on the idea can only manifest in this particular way. It has to be this or nothing. It has to be this or nothing. And I know you, like me, have gone through many iterations of the vision or our ultimate
Yes.
vision that we want to accomplish. It has to kind of be a little more pliable, right? So talk to us about what the initial vision was when you started thinking like, oh my God, like, could there be something here that is really calling my name? What was that in the beginning? What was calling you?
Okay, so well, I had that pro bono coordinator position for several years, right? And you are absolutely right. Like, obviously, I was continuing to do the legal position and the legal
Yep.
responsibilities that I had. But when I was juxtaposing those two, right, the substantive, purposeful, impactful work at the same time as the corporate work, essentially, there was just, I mean, it was just so overwhelming that I knew which side I was ultimately going to be going on eventually, right?
Yes, yes.
And then I left there in 2019, and I took some time off and did some traveling with different nonprofits and different organizations and stuff. And while I was there, I kept, traveling and doing different things to really have, feel
Yeah.
purposeful,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah.
not in the corporate world. I just kept experiencing so many different situations, seeing things happen, seeing people that were sacrificing, that were so intelligent and, so experienced, and they were sacrificing so much to help people. And there were just these incredible success stories. And I just kept thinking over and over, why don't people know about this? Why don't people
Yeah.
know about this? People need to know about this,
Yeah, yeah,
like
because there's so
how
many
are
things
how
out there
can
that they
people
don't know that they can make an impact. They don't know
exactly.
where to put their money if they don't have time, or if they do have the time, they don't know like where do I put my time?
Exactly, right? And so that's where the idea started to come from. But of course, it was late 2019, and we know what happened at the beginning of
Yeah,
2020,
yeah.
right? So, yeah, and initially, I thought I was trying to create something larger, maybe more like a TV series,
Yeah.
right? And I've gone through a couple of iterations, but pandemics happen, quarantines
Yep, yeah.
happen, and it prevents it. And then eventually, I did take a position, a general counsel position with the company that is doing housing and healthcare for the homeless, utilizing nonprofits, right? So
Yeah.
I was once again working more into the nonprofit
So
space,
kind of
but back
blending
in
your two,
yeah,
blending your experience, which I love this, by the way. It doesn't
yes,
mean it's the end all be all, but a lot of times an opportunity, like an interim opportunity will come along, whereas blending your experience, because you can bring all that in and you can bring it into the lane or the industry or the space that you're passionate about too. So like I love that that came along and you took it, even though probably your heart was like, I really want to launch this thing. I
yeah,
don't want to go back to work
yeah,
necessarily because I'm super into this thing, but that isn't always how it works. Sometimes we do need that interim bridge.
right. It's a long, strange trip, right?
For real.
They
I've been at
all
this
are.
10 years and still doing its thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's so true, right? Yeah, so I completely agree. I did not think I was going back into the corporate world at all. But this opportunity arose. It was a general counsel position, again, for a company providing housing and healthcare for the homeless, utilizing nonprofits, and they were incubating and growing the nonprofits. So I was like, okay, maybe this is exactly what I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
meant to do,
exactly.
right? Both of them just
Yep.
colliding there. So I did that for about a year and a half, and
Yeah.
then I don't know what, late October, September, October last year, you and I
Yep.
started talking, and I was like,
Yep.
I'm just getting this inclination again here,
I'm feeling the
you know.
pull. I'm feeling the
Like, yeah,
pull.
this next thing that I've been trying to do
Yeah.
since 2019, I feel like this is the time that I'm supposed to do this, right? Then you and I started having conversations,
Yep.
creating some game plans and some strategies on
Yep.
exactly what I should do next. And, so that's essentially
Yeah.
what led here. But I completely agree with you that sometimes you feel like, oh, well, maybe I don't, this wasn't the role that I thought I should take, but I would learn
Mhm.
so much from them, and
Yeah.
obviously made so many new connections and learned so much from that position, that opportunity, that I feel like I was supposed to learn, that I can
Million
take into
percent.
this next world, right?
Yep. A
So
million
I know I
percent.
was meant to be there.
And I want to kind of point out because I'm always wanting to share what an arc of a dream looks like because I
Yeah.
think it's really important and most people don't talk about it at all. Most people like see point A and point Z and are like, oh, okay, that's easy. I could do that, like, and they don't see anything that happens in between. And so when they start to go through the in between things, they're like, well, everyone I follow isn't going through that. So maybe I'm failing. Maybe this isn't right for me. Maybe I shouldn't do this, right? But there's
Yeah.
like a billion steps. So everyone's very clear between A and C. And
10
when that,
years.
yeah, for real, honest to God. And I think there's a couple really important points that I want to point out here because I see it all the time in my coaching is when you have that idea and that dream and something opens up where you feel like, okay, this is the moment I'm gonna start doing the thing I'm passionate about. Maybe it's been a side hustle for a while. Maybe it's been that passion that's been calling you. You're taking the risk, you're leaving corporate or you're leaving that kind of solid job and you're doing the thing. But then maybe it doesn't launch the way that you thought it would, or things don't kind of come together, or circumstances happen, a pandemic, whatever. And then that next bridge opportunity comes through, a lot of times people won't see that. They'll be
Yeah.
very solidly set in their thing and they're not open to how the universe is trying to guide them because that interim bridge is incredible for a lot of reasons. I had two of them, by the way, before actually leaving corporate 10 years ago and doing this full time. I had two. And I think one of the biggest and best things that that bridge does is it pays you
Pays
to
you.
germinate your dream and
Yeah.
to build the foundation for the dream. And that is super valuable. It's basically funding the dream. And it
Yes.
doesn't have to last forever. You know, yours lasted a year plus or whatever. That's perfect. It's the time to like give you the space to be able to be like, okay, this is how now I can go really execute this thing, but it's taking that pressure off. So if anyone's kind of going through something similar and maybe you were like, I'm fully committed to this business, but all of a sudden a job opportunity came along and you're like, is that a test? You
Yeah.
know, like whatever. It could be like the lifeline to be the bridge to just help you build a little bit more. So that's one point. And then the second one that I want to make is that the amount of flexibility we have to have in how our dream comes together can't be understated.
Yeah.
You know, because I think if we are really, really solid on only one outcome, we're going to be disappointed. And here's the thing, that one outcome can 1,000,000% happen. It just might need four or five other things to happen in between before the outcome comes along, right? And you were mentioning, like, you know, ultimate outcome, we'd love a documentary or a show or, you know, one of those things. And for me, an ultimate outcome is I would love to have my own talk show. I've always wanted to have my own talk show. Well, I'm doing a podcast in between. And this is an opportunity for me to interview you the same way that I
Yeah.
would if I had a show, right?
This is a great show.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's interim pieces
Yes.
where, you know, the talk show opportunity isn't here yet, but what can I do to like be still doing the thing? So talk
Yes.
to us a little bit about what that has been like about like finding a medium that does work and just getting it started right now, even though it isn't executing the ultimate dream quite yet.
So I think for to both of those points, I think the essential to both of those is learning, right? If even whatever job we're in, if we don't want to be here, my suggestion is take as many, committees or additional roles or additional responsibilities, learn, build your resume, right? Do everything you can to help yourself while you're helping that company or wherever you are, right?
That part, people, please listen to that part.
Glean everything you can from wherever you are. You are learning everything you need to learn right now, Sarah, for that big show that's coming, right?
Build that resume.
Yes,
Don't just
build
sit
the
there and
resume,
complain about it for a year.
build the knowledge, build the experience, build the network of people. Holy cow. I mean, that's what it is every single one of these small, we might think they're distractions or delays or, detours, but what they are is helping us learn what we need to learn, get to know the people we need to get to know. For that last position that I took, it was a GC position, but it all also expanded to a senior vice president of operations. So I started learning all of these operations and business components that I had never previously done, prior roles, because previously they were all just legal
Yeah.
positions, right? So I was learning so much, learning about nonprofits, learning about new needs, making, contacts,
And
all of the things.
you're learning all of that from the lens of corporate, which is actually
Yes.
super, super valuable because
Yes.
what you ultimately wanted to start wasn't necessarily, I mean, you're not starting a nonprofit, you're starting a business that is supporting and uplifting and amplifying nonprofits, right?
Yes.
So that bridge opportunity was actually genius because it was the first time before you were in a role that was volunteering, which was cool. You were able to see how corporate interacts with nonprofits. But in this last role, you were working with a company who was that was their purpose, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so for
exactly.
you, when you're wanting to launch your own, to be able to have had the experience on the inside of, hey, this is what this looks like from a business's perspective, I would think that that's so invaluable to what you're trying to build now. or what you
It
are
really
building.
was.
Yeah.
It really was. So, in so many different ways, that position was invaluable to me for what's next,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like that's probably the case for you and the
Yep.
detours that you've gone
A
on.
million
And that
percent.
would be the case for so many of your listeners and viewers as well, right? I just can't, emphatically enough say wherever you are, learn from it, right?
Yes.
Take, glean as much as you possibly can before you go on to what's next. And maybe that's why you're there. You need to learn something or you need
Yes.
to make connections, right?
I think 1,000,000%. And also don't forget that it could be funding your dreams. You should be doing your
Yes.
dream on the side. You should be, when I wrote Hustle, Believe, Receive, I had a full-time job that
Yeah.
traveled. So I was traveling once a week across the country with a full-time 40-hour-a-week job with three little kids. My kids were all in elementary school when I was writing that book. And I still was able to write a 350-page book with 51 interviews at night. Like you
Yeah.
don't, it's not like you want to do that hustle for the rest of your life, but I was able to because I had the job that gave me the paycheck. And northern, like, if I was unemployed writing that book, are you crazy? Like, it would have been horrible, right?
I
So
know.
there's that piece. And then the other one that I want to remind everyone is you should always be asking yourself whenever you're in a situation that maybe isn't your ideal end game situation. If you ask yourself this very simple question, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
All of a sudden it helps you find the opportunities. So if you're there going like, oh, I don't want to work for anyone anymore. I promised I wasn't going to do it. Here I am, blah, blah, blah. If you ask yourself, well, wait, what's in it for me? How can I learn? Because then
Yeah.
that helps you like source those and helps you see like, ooh, what could I be gathering? What
Yeah.
could operations be teaching me right now that maybe might help me run my business? So I think having those, 4 points in all is huge to help you understand that, hey, this is actually getting me to my long-term vision. So
I
then,
agree completely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then when you decided, like, we had a lot of conversations and we were fleshing out lots of ways that your dream can start happening today versus having it be just the ultimate end game. What was, talk to us a little bit about that when you start to see like your dream have lots of different possibilities of how it can come together, and then also just starting it and doing it, whether you feel ready or not, whether you feel like this is like, like what does that look like to actually get the dream tangibly off the ground?
Well, so I mean, obviously, the administrative and the corporate component wasn't that difficult for me. I mean, I've been doing that for
Yeah.
years, right? And I have a substantial experience, like we talked about previously, where if there's just what the next step and the next step, just overcome each obstacle, just, whatever is in front of you, just take that, accomplish that task, right? But as you know,
Yeah.
the thing that probably was the most difficult for me was putting myself out there.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not a person that personally puts myself out there substantially. So that was something that I internally had to overcome, doing
Yeah.
tasks like this, doing the YouTube series as well, and hosting that. I know innately that I have all of these different resources that I can pull together to really help to put a spotlight on nonprofits and individuals as well. It doesn't just have to be nonprofits that are doing really good work, to increase the good work that they're doing, exponentially increase the good work that they're doing. And I know that have had the vision and the idea, for many
Yeah.
years. But the biggest element the element of fear for me was that I'm going to be the center of this. you
That
know,
and
I'm
that is
not just
so
a
valid.
lawyer in the corner office.
Yeah, it's so valid. The fear of visibility. I've been, really thinking a lot about that lately because obviously, like I've been in the opposite shoes. I've been sharing my story publicly now for almost 20 years,
Yeah,
18 years. But right now in this time that I'm going through, I'm reinventing like this next chapter of my life, and I want to be not different. I just want to have the freedom to be 100% me. I don't want to be as polished as I was in the last decade, like I'm in a different spot.
yeah,
And that is pulling up a lot of that like don't be visible stuff too, in a different way than it does the very first time you go out there. The
yeah.
very first time you go out there is terrifying. It feels like you're naked in front of the world. I'm not going to like undersell that. It is really, really scary, especially for someone like you who's very private. Like you were extremely private. Like you weren't really on social media at all. Like
Mhm.
you were very, you were in a corporate legal role. That is probably as buttoned up as corporate
In
gets,
the
right?
back corner.
It doesn't get
And I
any
was
more.
happy with that. I was very happy with that role.
Yeah, it was comfortable. It was totally comfortable. Like you chose it for
Yeah.
a reason, right? And then this, what you're doing now is the opposite. I remember when we were first having these conversations, and you were wanting to launch your company where you are amplifying amazing, different nonprofits in each episode and all these different things. And you're like, how do I do it without me? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry to tell you.
Like sit behind camera and punt questions.
I was like, you're gonna have to be part of this in some way, shape, or form. So tell me about Amplify Good. Like
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
what are you launching? What is it all about?
I'm so excited about this. So it's Amplifying Good Media is the company that I've created. Amplifying ing with an ing, right?
Yeah,
And so the whole goal, obviously, again, is to put a spotlight on nonprofits, organizations, and individuals, right? That are doing really good, positive work all around the world to address causes. And then we're also going to highlight their success stories as well, right?
love that.
Yeah, it's like I said, like I've traveled many different places and done and worked with so many different nonprofits in all different capacities. And so many times I've seen or thought, why don't people know about this? How do people not know about this success story? How do people not know about these highly intelligent people that are taking their vacation to save lives in remote areas around the world, right?
Yeah,
Or these animal rescues that are spending 14, 16, 18 hours daily to save animals and to keep dogs from being euthanized in shelters. Just incredible sacrifice and work and effort and heart and
mm,
love and hope that these organizations and these people are bringing that so many people don't know about. And I just feel like it's my time to spotlight them, right?
yep,
And show what these great people and individuals and organizations are doing. But one of my main goals as well, because I previously did have that pro bono coordinator position where I know that corporations have these programs where they
yeah,
do pro bono services or volunteering services, et cetera. I want to connect these nonprofits or these individuals, organizations with these larger corporations. That is a large component of what I'm trying to do and what I am doing with this
yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
series.
Oh my
So,
God, I love it, and I love that you just did it. It doesn't happen without fear. It doesn't happen without, so many questions with just there's a lot to kind of go through from idea to
yeah.
execution to launch. And first and foremost, I just want to I'm so proud of you. And
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I just love
Thank
when
you.
someone takes a dream and executes on it is like what I live for because I've done it so many times and I know how scary it is and
Yeah.
like how much love and heart and passion goes into it. And you just launched your very first episode. It's doing
I
really well
did.
on YouTube. Of course, I'm going to
Thank
put
you.
the links in here. It's coming as an audio deep dive podcast as well, so we'll put the
Yes.
link in there when that's live. um, and what I love about this is that we now live in a time where there's so many different mediums and different ways that we can get our dreams started today. We don't
Yes.
have to wait till everything is perfect. We don't have to wait until we have, funding from a streaming platform or whatever. Like there's a million ways that we can do the impact that we want to do, build the thing that we want to build, and you are doing that, and you are building it, and there's all these different components that you can now build out with your business and these amazing conversations that you can have and organizations that you can highlight. And I just want to commend you because there's so
Thank you.
many people who will just stay at that inflection point and not actually go do the thing. Or not actually be able to look outside the box and see that there's other ways to do it right now,
Yeah.
rather than waiting. And I think like that's really commendable because it is a place where most people just won't ever execute on the thing they want to do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you motivating me too. When we were having our initial conversations about this, you really kind of
Yeah.
nudged me like, just do it now. There's so many ways you can do this, right?
Yeah.
Because I had, again, tried a couple of different iterations, but, life
Right.
happens, things happened, the world shuts down, right? So a number of different times I did try to start this and it
Yeah.
just wasn't the right time. And then like I said, I just sort of just start to get this internal inclination that it was the time, but there is the fear initially,
Yeah.
right? Can I do this? What am I going to have to put myself out there?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? That again was the fear that I really had to overcome. Most of the administrative and corporate component, I can figure that out
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, that has been a fear that I have had to overcome. And we all think it's just going to happen quickly. And, this has taken a few months longer than I anticipated it was
Of
going to take,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
as I'm sure most people experience, right? We all think we're going to, oh, this will be no problem. I
It'll
can make
blow
this
up
happen in
overnight.
no
My
time.
idea is the best idea in the whole world. How could
Yeah,
everyone not?
yeah,
And
everybody will love
that's so
it.
valid because again, we're very much in a culture of, oh, we went viral overnight and
Yeah,
this was so easy and I made $5 million in 4 months and oh my God, and great for the 0.00001
yeah,
percent who that happens to, but for the rest of us, we're out there building things. We're out
yeah,
there doing the work and doing it whether we're seeing those immediate results or not. And to me, that is what matters the most because we're building that solid foundation that is going to launch whatever is supposed to be coming next for us. And I think,
right,
having a vision of where it's going is super important. That's the one big, big piece of it. And never losing that big ultimate vision. You have that ultimate vision. This is where this could go. This is where I'd like it to go. But then the other 50% is being flexible and following as the universe or God like is leading and giving
yeah.
those tweaks and ideas as it comes along. How are you overcoming the fear of visibility? Because that's super valid. I think there's probably everyone listening can relate to that in some shape or form.
So yeah, there was initially substantial fear,
Yeah.
right? But I'll be honest with you, once I actually, we recorded the first episode and I started to watch it back and, was doing the editing with the
Yep.
producer and the editor, I was like, the fear was way bigger than reality, way
Yes.
bigger than
Yes.
reality. And okay, maybe it's not so bad. It's not perfect by
Yeah.
any means. There's room for improvement, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually just as much excited about the room for improvement. I'm like, oh, I can do that better next
Absolutely. You're
time
like,
and that
oh, okay,
better
yeah.
next time. So the fear has actually changed almost to a little excitement and a little anticipation for what's
Yes,
next
I love that.
because I just walked over it,
Yeah.
but it was there and it was substantial,
Right. Well, and
you
I think
know.
the other important thing to point out is it can be whatever piece of visibility that you are comfortable with. You know what
Right,
I mean? Like
right.
it isn't all or nothing. It isn't like, okay, if I am the host of this show, then I have to literally turn my life inside out and the world gets every single piece of me. No, they can get the piece of me that's the host of the show, or they can get
Yeah,
the piece of me that is going out and volunteering or whatever, like I do think we have way more autonomy and agency in what is visible and what isn't than I think a lot of people assume, maybe.
yeah,
They kind of assume like it's completely all or nothing, either I'm the face of this thing and that means like, okay, I have to be like whatever, super vulnerable or doing it the way other people are doing it on social media, but it doesn't have to be that way at all. It can be whatever version you feel comfortable with, whatever parts you feel comfortable with. And
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think that again speaks to, and the delays that you were talking about earlier, both of those again speak to the learning, right?
yeah,
That we both are sort of going through a process and building slowly because we are learning as we go. I'm
yes,
learning all the things that I can do, right? You're learning the things that you're going to do for your big show, right? I'm learning about analytics and
yep,
you
exactly.
know
Yeah, all these
all of
components
these
you never
things.
thought you'd have to learn about.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about these. So it's just
Yeah,
it's a learning process and I'm enjoying it, right?
I love
So
that.
yeah, once I was able to overcome that initial fear, it was nowhere near as bad. Like just being like, okay,
Yeah.
let's post it. You know, I
Yes, I
honestly
love
thought the
that.
posting the first one was going to be the most difficult thing in the world for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
And it's not
because
nearly as
I'm
bad as
nowhere.
it is not as bad as we build it up in our heads, people.
Yes,
Like that,
yes,
the upside so outweighs that. And just like anything else, just like riding a freaking bike, it gets easier every single time you do it. So remember that too. Like you said, like every time you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna try this little thing, that I hadn't tried before. And honestly, I think from the perspective of just generally being self-conscious, which every human is,
yeah,
probably women, especially maybe.
yeah,
Um, if that is at all anyone's fear who's listening, a recommendation is start recording yourself talking and just listening because that's the worst part. Like if you're not
yeah.
used to hearing your voice, that probably is the hardest part to get over. If you're not used to like seeing yourself on camera, that's probably the hard. Once you get over that hurdle, it doesn't matter who sees it after that. It's
Right.
more you just like used to hearing your voice, used to seeing yourself on camera. Get past that, and you can do that on your iPhone anytime. The
Yes.
faster you get comfortable with that, the better. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your story, and thanks for doing the thing, and being brave enough to follow the passion and making it happen. And also, I want to encourage everyone who's listening. I'm guessing if they have a nonprofit or if they want to, be involved in some way, you'd like to connect.
Yes, please. Absolutely. I would love to hear from any individual, organization, nonprofit that's doing great work and positively impacting your community or a cause. And so you can reach out to me at hello at amplifying with an ing, amplifyinggoodmedia.com.
Love
And I
that.
would love to hear from you. And maybe we could feature you in an episode. And the
Yes,
channel on the YouTube series channel currently is Amplifying Good, amplifying with the
perfect.
ing.
Wonderful. And I will put the links to both of those here in the show notes. The podcast is coming soon, so we'll put that in
Yes.
there as well, where you'll be able to hear the full interview and the full conversations. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for doing the thing, honestly. And
Thank you.
and
I
I
really appreciate it. I really had fun today.
yay, that's what we want.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And everybody, don't forget to share, comment, go follow. And until next time, get out there and thrive.